The Whimpering Wastes, the newest endgame content in Wuthering Waves, dropping with the 2.1 update. And today we're going to talk about it. Is this a good endgame mode? Does it actually elevate the game? And most importantly, is it something that takes everyone into consideration? Now, if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of my videos. Alright, let's start with a general rundown of how this event works. The Whimpering Waste is structured like a progressive gauntlet, and as you progress, the difficulty ramps up. You start with relatively easy enemies at level 50, but as you push deeper, the enemy levels scale up, eventually reaching level 100. The event is split into three main realms. The Forbidden Waters, so this is the warm-up phase, pretty manageable, nothing too crazy. The Respawning Waters Chasm, things start to get serious here. Enemies are stronger and you need to actually think about your team comps. The Respawning Waters Torrents, yeah, this is where dreams go to die. This is the hardest fights, highest level enemies, and no mercy whatsoever. But here's the interesting part. With each stage you clear, you're rewarded with special tokens. When you start the event, you're given two free tokens, one spectral buff and one glacial buff. These tokens are crucial because they make your run easier as you go forward. As you clear more stages, you earn more tokens and you can strategically use them to push deeper into the gauntlet. Some tokens can be used infinitely, while others have a limited number of uses, most often just twice. And here's where the competitive aspect comes in. Each stage has a scoring system, and the goal is to rack up as many points as possible. You need at least 1,000 points to clear a stage, but if you want the best reward, you need to aim higher. 1,500 points for a B rank, 2,000 points for an A rank, and 2,500 points for an S rank. So the idea is to optimize your runs using the right tokens, picking the best strategies, and pushing your limits to get the highest score possible. You can even redo previous stages to improve your rankings. Now, all of this sounds good, right? But the big question is it fair to everyone? While playing the Whimpering Waste events, something immediately stood out to me. This feels very similar to the Pincer Maneuver tactical event, and if you've played that event, you'll know exactly what I mean. But for those who haven't, the Pincer Maneuver was structured in a similar stage-by-stage format, but without the dynamic buffs you get in Whimpering Waves. Instead, you were given the same buffs repeatedly as you progressed. And the biggest issue with the Pincer Maneuver, well, that was the time limits. This was a massive problem. Instead of rewarding skillful play, it felt like the event just punished you for not having highly invested characters. I like to believe that Wuthering Waves is a skill-based game, but Pincer Maneuver didn't care how well you played. It only cared about how fast you could clear. And if you weren't clearing fast enough, well, too bad for you. And that's where I see the same issue creeping into the Whimpering Waste. Sure, you get buffs as you progress, and they do help. But when enemies are just insanely tanky, buffs or not, the time constraint still makes the event frustrating. And if you believe that maybe it's just a skill issue, maybe it's not that hard, think back to every event that has received backlash in Wuthering Waves. The Pincer Maneuver, the TOA, and even the Tactical Maneuver where you fight bosses. All of these have been criticized by the community. And what's the one thing they all have in common? Time constraints. It's not that the enemies are hard to fight, it's that you're not giving enough time to beat them, and here's where it gets frustrating. As a free-to-play player, there's only so much you can do. You level your talents, you upgrade your weapons, you farm the best echoes you can find, but after that, what's left? At this point, it's not about skill anymore, it's the game suddenly telling you, hey, this is where you need more copies of your character or weapon. And sure, maybe there's some super optimized way to clear it without spending money, but at what cost? It stops being fun and just becomes stressful. And what's crazy is that we've had events that were universally loved. Look at the hologram bosses or the depth of Elusive Realm. Now, some of you might think I'm contradicting myself by bringing up the hologram bosses, right? But if you really listen to everything I've said, the main problem that separates the hologram bosses from all these other frustrating events is the time constraints. I have no problem with being given a reasonable amount of time to beat a boss, and that's exactly what the hologram bosses do. I think you get 5 minutes to take down a boss, and if you can't beat a boss in that time, the only logical conclusion is that your characters aren't strong enough yet, and that's fine, because as a free-to-play player, that means there's still room to build. You can still level up your talents, optimize your echoes, or fine-tune your rotations. But more often than not, when players struggle with all-around bosses, it's not a strength issue, it's a skill issue. That's crazy. And that's a good thing because it means you can improve by just playing the game better, by dodging better, by managing stamina, and actually playing the game well, rather than just throwing stats at the problem. And that's why the community loves it. Same goes for the depth of Elusive Realm. A roguelike with no time limit, so if I lose, I know it's because of my mistakes. Now, I'm not saying that the Whimpering Waste is a bad event, but it has the same problem we've always complained about in Wuthering Waves: time constraints forcing difficulty instead of skill-based challenges. And when it's all said and done, I just hope that moving forward, we get more events and endgame content that's built around skill and not a timer. I'll be covering the weekly events when they drop to see how they compare to Whimpering Waste, but I just wanted to talk about this real quick and share my thoughts. Anyway, catch you all in the next one. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Peace.